Welcome back. Chapter 20. Y'all ready? These are the last three chapters of this book. Okay. Aiden lay in the quiet darkness for a while, holding Eva while listening to the calming sounds of her breathing in her sleep, relaxing to the mellow rumble of her low and steady snore, something he was sure that if he told her about, she surely denied. The thought brought back, excuse me, the thought brought a reluctant smile to the corner of his mouth. He was turned on his side, holding her back to front, a position he'd come to find way too much comfort in. But she fit perfectly, tucked under him with her head resting on his arm. He knew he could stay for a few more hours and leave around 5 or even 5:30 before the day shift doorman came on and head to his apartment to shower and change for work. He wanted nothing more than to stick with their usual routine and do just that. But today changed all of that, and he knew it was time for him to head home now. Okay, they were sunk, and it wasn't because of what Carter had said. Hell, he couldn't give a damn about what Carter said, and if truth be told, the pic from the paper didn't bother him all that much, but he knew it would bother her. Aiden, you such a sweetheart. You so considerate. But yeah, she gonna be mad. A lot. And he also knew that for all that Carter had said, the pain in the ass was right. Aiden didn't need the distraction or the entanglement, and neither did she. She mapped out the plan from the beginning, so why was he going around it and playing out some waste of his time, midnight to daybreak, happy hubby fantasy, and possibly jeopardize both their reputation in the process? Shit, if he wanted to bet on a sucker fantasy and gamble at the same time, there was a pay to play fantasy league football. He didn't have to fool himself with this pretend game of daddy's home that they were playing. Besides, she wanted a husband, someone to complete the perfect picture she had in her head, and he wanted his freedom, a chance to move on and pursue his stories with freedom and no fear of entanglements. They both deserved to have what they wanted, so this had to come to an end. Eva yawned and stretched a bit, wiggled her behind, causing his dick to jump to attention once again. Damn, it was amazing how he responded to her, though. He inwardly groaned and his fingers flexed. He was aching to reach out and grab her thighs, pull her creamy mocha skin closer to him, and just bury himself in deep, go on and get lost in her sweetness one more time. Instead, Aiden leaned down and softly kissed her shoulders before easing his arm from under her head and slowly turning over onto his back and lifting up in order to put on his clothes. He was bending down to pick up his boxer's brief when her sleepy voice floated over him. "You're leaving?" Her tone wasn't angry or accusing. No, it was worse, soft, low, and full of sad disappointment. She turned over to her stomach and now faced him. "Yep, I'm going to head out and get an early start." Eva turned away and looked at the bedside clock, causing him to look too, even though he already knew the time, 1:48. "Does it really matter now? Can't you stay? Wait until morning?" Aiden looked toward the window at the darkened sky and the never quite dark view of New York below. So many of her neighbors' windows were still bright and blazing against the midnight sky. So much so that when you looked up, you could see a star if you tried. You couldn't see a star if you tried. As it was, the almost full moon had to fight for a share of attention. It was so different from the calm skies he'd seen from the most devastating war-torn countries. Aiden turned back to Eva. God, she was beautiful. Looking at her now with her tousled bed hair and her half-sleepy eyes, all he wanted to do was get back into bed with her. There was something about being here with her, while the rest of the world was blocked by a layer of concrete and still, the haze of her being made him somehow feel, maybe just a few brief moments, that there was not a tense world living on the edge, ready to blow that sweet haze away. But there was, and at some point, they both have to face it. He might as well be the one to make the leap and do it now. She gave him a smile and crooked her finger, beckoning him to come back to bed. Yeah, he needed to be the one. If not now, then he might lose his nerve, and his delay could turn into never. At least this way he wouldn't have to watch her find her perfect mate on camera and play the part of an innocent bystander in the train wreck that was sure to come. Aiden leaned down and kissed her, enjoying the sweet honey and cream flavor of her that he'd come to love so much. He drank it in, getting his fill before he pulled back once again. I'm sorry, Princess, but I've really got to go. Eva didn't say a word, but just looked at him, her eyes glistening, and his heart did a flip and something in his gut twisted. It didn't take him long to dress, and he did so in silence. When he was ready to leave, she spoke. I would walk you to the door, but I'd rather stay here. Let you remember me this way when you're sitting at your desk today. She was doing that light thing she did with her voice, but he detected a falseness that he hadn't heard from her in a long time, at least not in the hours from the midnight to 6 a.m. Aiden laughed at that, his throat uncomfortably dry. Okay, Miss Ward, I'm sure you'll be on my mind all day as you are every day. Eva's eyes narrowed. You're not even out the door yet, and already I'm back to being Miss Ward. Ooh. Aiden leaned down and kissed her, then pulled back and looked into her now sharp eyes. I'm practicing for work, making sure I have my lines right. Are you now? Because if you ask me, it felt like you were saying goodbye. Goodbye for good. Ooh. She laughed nervously, and Aiden couldn't help but look away. She took his hand, and he looked down at her. Stop being silly. We have work to do. It's not like you won't see me again. He leaned down and quickly kissed her once more and smiled, letting go of her hand and quickly squeezing her beautiful thighs. One thing you have to know about me is I always finish my job. Now, before I proceed, Aiden, you should have told her, because it would be better coming from you than anybody else. I'm just saying. Okay, I'm proceeding. What am I supposed to do now? Eva thought as she swiped at her cell to check for incoming texts, knowing good and well the answer to the question before the swiping. You're supposed to get your act together and find your groom and move the hell on. It had been a week, and she missed Aiden terribly since he left her last week feeling unsettled, though completely sexual satisfied. She somehow managed to get to sleep around 3:30 a.m. after tossing and turning, her mind going over the little bit of conversation they had more times than she could count. What did he mean he always finished his jobs? The question was, had he finished with her? When she had been hit with the newspaper picture of the two of them, she had called him immediately, only to have her cell returned by Carter, who said that Aiden was out of town for the day on business, but he was on the case and not to worry about that photo. Ooh, she found out that way. It was nothing. They were just two colleagues having breakfast. The fact that Carter had used Aiden's exact words infuriated her and gave her more answers than it hid. She needed to just go ahead and admit what she knew as soon as she opened the door and seen it on his face last week. He was through, with her at least. But now here it was date night once again, and the crew was here. Though quite scaled down, as it would seem they got in the process streamlined to a bit of a science. And surprise of all surprises, the scaled down crew didn't include Aiden once again. That was it. He was now in full-blown avoidance mode. He had sent her a couple of texts over the past week about being swamped with work and using that as an excuse for getting out of their late night tryst. And for her last date, Peter, a shy but surprisingly engaging literature professor and writer whom she met for coffee and a stroll uptown at the museum and gardens. Aiden was a no-show as well, citing another work commitment and leaving Louisa as the point person in charge. Mm, 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 mm. Eva tried her best to hide her disappointment over not seeing him that day, and for the most part, she thought she'd done well. It was at night when she was alone yet again that it really got to her. When midnight came around and there was no buzz at the door, or when she looked up and realized she was hungry because she neglected to eat, since she was hoping to share a relaxing meal with him, then fall off to sleep in his arms after making love. Yeah, that's when the fact that she was alone, and not just alone, but without him, really hurt. And now here it was, the day when she'd have yet another date, the last one before it was time to narrow down her options, and he wasn't there again. Damn it. This time, hiding her feelings was almost impossible to do. It took all she had not to ask Louisa or Stan or even to whisper to one of the PAs and find out where he was. Had he flown the coop for good? Given up on her and her segment all in one fell swoop without a word? He better not have. Well, he is, right? Okay. Her mind began to spiral, though she tried to act all unaffected and nonchalant when the makeup artist happened to ask Mitzi where the hot Aiden Walker was today. But with the tension in her lips and the rigidness of her spine, she was sure it was a dead giveaway. It was Louisa who chimed in. He's being pulled in a lot of directions. From what I hear, he has some high priority assignments for the network, so he's asked me to step in and take over where I can. Eva blinked and felt the muscles in her eye twitch. Her eye twitch did not escape Lou notice. She quickly came over and gave Eva's hand a pat that was not entirely comforting, but Eva knew it was a big step for the no-nonsense Louisa. You don't have a problem with that, do you? Because I assure you, I can handle the job. You're in safe hands with me. You can trust me. Safe hands? Trust? Eva felt the floor shift beneath her feet at those words. They were eerily similar to Aiden's, and look what had come of that. One last night of passion and then a no-show. She looked sharply into the petite powerhouse eyes, and from the all-knowing look she got back, she knew with every fiber in her being that Louisa knew too. She could feel the moisture threaten to well up in the back of her eyes, and imagine pinching herself in order to make it stop. She blinked and smiled softly at Louisa while willing her voice to remain steady. Of course I don't have a problem. I'm sure you've been doing most of the work anyway. I know how these suits are. Louisa continued with her hard stare for one beat and then another, and then one beat too long after that. I do what I do. It's my job. The makeup artist took Eva's chin in hand, then and lifted it higher to the light, coming at her to swipe more blush onto her cheeks. And I've got to do my job if we're going to keep on schedule. Can you turn my way and give me a smile? I need to rosy you up a bit. Add some color to those cheeks. All of a sudden, you're looking a little washed out. Eva nodded as she waited to be done with makeup. Washed out wasn't the half of it. At that moment, she felt washed out, used up, and wrung out. Makeup finally done, and her fake smile feeling like a clay mask that could too easily crack under the pressure. Eva headed to the bathroom where she changed into her dress for the evening. That freaking bastard! Eva hung the black sausage dress on the back of the bathroom door in pace, cell phone in hand. Frustrated with the confined space and starting to feel like a cloistered criminal, she finally gave up and leaned hard against the edge of the vanity, staring at the phone and contemplating texting him. More than anything, she wanted to not just text, but call and give him a piece of her mind. But the little entourage was just outside her bathroom door, and it would be certain they'd hear her heated exchange. And what would she say anyway? Would she yell at him for not being there? Accuse him of being a wimp and avoiding her? Mm-hmm. Or would she throw it all to the wind and beg him to come be her groom? Oh, get her out of this mess, take her in his arms, and never let her go. Shit. Well, that wouldn't do at all now, would it? Aha, I just had a thought. He's not there. Could he do that? Okay. There was all questions and requests that Eva knew she couldn't ask and really didn't have a right to. They were over the line and broke the rules she put in place when she started this whole thing. And really, besides the annoying avoidance, he wasn't doing anything wrong. It wasn't like they were a couple or exclusive or had any type of claim on each other at all. During the course of their murky meetups, that much was abundantly clear. Eva bit at her bottom lip as her hands began to shake and her eyes watered. Freaking crap. She couldn't cry, not now, not when her makeup was already done. She put down the phone and fanned her face while she jumped up and down, fighting for control. Then she picked the phone up once more and hit her contacts, texting Corey as she looked at the dress hanging on the back of the bathroom door. E. So I took your advice and got under one, and now look where I am, about to squeeze into a legal dress worth more than my rent, and I can't stop crying. Remind me to never listen to you again. She found the emoticon with a crying, not smiling face and hit send. She knew that when the time difference She knew that with the time difference, it would be a while before Corey saw it and responded. In the meantime, she might as well go on with her next date. Tonight, she was meeting some hotshot lawyer for a more traditional casual dinner type date. She didn't remember the name of the guy. They were honestly all starting to blur together. He was some last minute replacement by the matchmakers. Last minute, huh? But she was at least assured that tonight's date didn't involve any climbing, acrobats, water, or outdoor activities of any kind. With that, she was already ahead of the game. Eva let out a sigh, thinking about having to make a choice soon. She guessed that if at this point she had to choose, and hell, she did. It would be either Opera Dude or the surfer. She frowned. Scratch Opera Dude. He gave her the creeps with all breaking talk as if she were a runaway horse. And Surfer, despite the sand and the physical extremes, made her laugh quite a bit. Also, how wrong was it that his rigidness travel schedule spelled an imitable marriage for all involved? Eva let out a long breath. It really was pointless. Probably in a couple of weeks, she'd be admitting defeat on national television and falling on her proverbial single in the city, bound to be a spinster girl sword. This whole idea was ridiculous anyway. A modern day shotgun style wedding, and she set it up so she was essentially her own jury and executioner. Eva grabbed her dress and shimmied herself into it, overshooting the mark and pulling it up high under her breast, then smoothing it back down over her hips and adjusting her breasts so they sat up on the built-in booby display shelf in just the intended way. She scrunched up her face and rolled her eyes. Hell, you didn't see guys coming through all this bullshit? There aren't any cock amplifiers built into pants. Bring back the cod piece. It was then that Eva phone pinged, surprising her and causing her to jump. She picked it up and swiped. See, damn it, woman, all these years later, and you choose now to start listening to me? You know I don't have no good sense. Shit. Eva snorted and sent her friend a kiss emoji by way of answer. She then picked up her pearls and gently clipped them around her neck, the coolness tickling her softly, bringing her mind to Aiden's gentle, feathery kisses. Her pearls looked good against her skin and the black dress backdrop, but still her brows drew together as she looked at her reflection. It's not like he would be on the other side of the door to admire them, as she foolishly gotten used to. Eva paused as she reached for the bathroom door handle and looked herself in the eyes. It doesn't matter, she said to her reflection. You started this by yourself, and you can end it that way. She quickly picked up her phone once again and swiped at the contacts before she started typing. You said you always finish your jobs. You, Mr. Walker, are a liar. Good day. Okay. Aiden looked at the screen, then slammed his cell back on his desk. What the hell, man? Now I know you never had to worry about money like the rest of us working stiffs. But come on, breaking cell phone can be an expensive habit, especially if you're out of contract, Carter said by way of greeting as he entered Aiden's office. Aiden looked up from where he was seated and leveled Carter with a sharp glare. I'm not in the mood right now, see, he said in hopes. Isn't that funny? She got a friend named Corey, and he got a friend named Carter, and they both names start with a C. I'm just kidding. Excuse me, let me proceed. I'm not in the mood right now, see, he said in hopes that Carter would get the hint and leave him be. He didn't. Instead, Carter ignored the cue and walked straight into Aiden's office as if invited. Shit, just what he didn't want, Aiden thought as he shrunk down the board email he'd been forwarded from his father. But what was Carter interruptions really? Just another unwanted interruption to add to his list of life interruptions? He hadn't planned on being at the station for any real length of time, but this was ever so steeply turning into a full-time thing. Strangely, he was actually starting to think he might need to invest in taking the time to hire a full-time personal assistant for when a gatekeeper was needed and not just some temp from HR that was always a no-show. The young woman they sent, Monica, was more interested in who was coming in for casting than what his schedule was, and his schedule was getting increasingly more demanding. At this rate, who knew when he'd get back on the road? Aiden let out a frustrated sigh, then regretted it. He really should be more patient and possibly a little more charitable. But damn it, he was rubbed raw. Who was she to call him a liar? The woman was the queen of bullshit cover-ups and masks, and besides, he was only following her orders, the ones she had set for them back in the beginning. Yeah, right, Aiden. You know Carter got under your skin, and you lost the chance to tell her the truth. Oh, what's up? So why was it he felt so unsettled? Because you ain't do the right thing. You was doing the right thing this whole time, but then you decided not to. That's why. So why was it he felt so unsettled, so off, like a fraud for not being by her side as she got ready for her date tonight? Her date. That was why. Right freaking there. The whole thing filled him with dread. It was cowardly, but after last week, something had turned. Turned as in had gone sour, like old milk. And it wasn't her. It was the process. What they were doing and the fact that he knew where it was heading. It was heading the right direction. Okay. He just didn't have it in him to watch her up close and personal as she auditioned another potential mate. And she was just as crazy as this harebrained idea if she thought it could, night after night, stand by and watch her do it without it ripping him to his core. Like tonight, how was it he was supposed to watch her have another dinner out at a restaurant with some guy, when though she shared every sexual intimacy imaginable, he yet to even hold her hand in public? Aiden groaned. And what? Was he 12? Dreaming of holding a woman's hand? Shit, he really was gone over the bend. Tonight's date was supposed to be some replacement hotshot lawyer they found when the predetermined hedge fund manager fell through. On paper, the guy seemed right up her alley, but enough was enough. There was only so much a man could take before he blew. And as Carter had pointed out on the day of the beach shoot, his emotions were already becoming transparent. So the farther away he was from her and the set right now, the better. Carter took a seat across from him and crossed his legs. What's got you in such a snit? You bit the heads off every executive manager in that last meeting. Damn, man. Even your father isn't that tough. Aiden felt the tension in his shoulders tighten. That's because my father doesn't mind wasting time and sitting and listening to endless bullshit. I don't have to rehash things that don't matter or go over and over a point, ad, whatever that word is. Mm-mm. It's a waste. I'm not here to build up egos, and I'm sorry if that means you too. Aiden picked up a file and started to flip through it, hoping Carter would once again pick up on the dismissive vibe. The file was the proposal for a promising new feature, and it was the first thing that had come across Aiden's desk that had sparked his interest. At least he could absorb himself in one show that looked worth the money it would take to produce. They were looking into sending a news crew team deep into Sudan to research women's rights after a recent rash of unreported kidnappings. He wanted like hell to get back out in the field, and if he couldn't do it himself, at least he could manage a team from here and hopefully make a difference, bringing awareness where it was sorely needed. You know, tonight is the final date before she makes her decision, right? Carter said by way of pulling Aiden's focus back his way. Aiden looked at him slowly, trying hard to keep his gaze impassive. And you're telling me this because? Carter shook his head. Shit, I was afraid this was going to happen. I just didn't expect it to be this bad or this real. Aiden let out a snort, then leveled Carter with a hard look. Stop trying to talk about something you don't know about. Real? What are you, tripping? You must be falling for your own sappy TV hype. I don't have time for real. We have a job to do. Time is precious. See, that right there was your problem in the meeting. You and all your executive cronies spending too much time flapping your gums and living in the clouds. He threw the file at Carter's chest. See, this is what's real, not your bullshit date piece that serves nobody. This is real news in real life, not what you're doing with your puff piece, and definitely not in the boardroom wasting time in useless pissing contest meetings. What? Carter said. Are our pissing contests disturbing your on the road Superman wannabe lifestyle? Or is the problem that we're keeping you from your precious get a piece of pearl draped ass time? Ooh. Aiden jumped up, and before he knew it, Carter's collar was balled in his hand and his face was pulled in close to his. Don't you ever let me hear you talk about her ass or any other part of her anatomy ever again. I thought we got that shit straight on the beach. Their eyes was locked. It was a complete flashback to an old school 10-year-old back in the college days standoff. Aiden felt for sure this time he could take Carter out, and then his friend's lips quirked up in the corner and he shook his head. Yeah, that's what I thought. Aiden felt his eyes narrow as he fought to get control of his erratic breathing. He shook his head and let Carter go. The man only slightly swayed as he smoothly brushed at his lapels, straightening his suit. What the fuck are you talking about, man? Carter shrugged. Like I said, it's what I thought. You're in way over your head, no matter what you say. Aiden let out a growl and slumped back down in his chair. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. We're not compatible. She wants this sham marriage thing. She doesn't want to be one of those unmarried statistic women that we keep doing all these sensational stories about. He paused and looked at Carter, letting that sit in for a moment. And the fact is, I don't. I know that life isn't for me. I'm made for the road, not for settling down with a socialite ice princess like her. She'd never be the type to get up and go with me. Besides, why would I even expect her to? You see what the life I want is like? It's dangerous, and I'm not one in which you can make attachments. The smartest and the best way for me and for both of us is to go our separate ways. Carter gave him a look that turned him inside out and back. So you say, but you're wrong. Plenty of top reporters make it work, both male and female. Well, they are not me, Aiden said by way of feeble answer. Carter gave him a confused look and shook his head. Yeah, but she still hasn't chosen a groom. Looking at the videos, it doesn't seem as if there are sparks between her and any of the guys. All their amazing nights of passion suddenly flooded Aiden's mind, and he had to fight to keep his body from responding. Well, that may be partially my fault. Aiden studied his desk, really taking in the confined edges of the solid expanse of wood. This is why it's probably best that I step aside. Let Lou finish the job. She's more than capable. Yeah, especially tonight, Carter said low under his breath. Something in Carter's tone forced Aiden's head to shoot up. What? Why? Carter looked down, inspecting his loafers. Bane, I wouldn't test me if I were you. What is so special about tonight that you don't think I should be there? Aiden asked, his voice full of steel. Carter sat up straight and looked him in the eye. Aiden knew him well enough to know that this firm gaze was all false bravado. Well, I may have gotten a call from her ex. What? And we may have landed a great idea for a final date. Aiden felt a low growl come from deep in his throat. You have got to be fucking kidding me. He felt his blood run cold as he looked at his old friend and imagined Eva seeing Kevin once again under the watchful eyes of the television camera. He got up and grabbed his cell phone and his keys, going for the door. But first, he turned to Carter. If I didn't think of you as a brother, I swear I'd beat the shit out of you. Okay. That's the end of chapter 20. So, I got that. What I got to say is that Aiden definitely should have told her. They should have definitely had the conversation together. They should have both come to the same, or not the same conclusion, but at least give her an opportunity instead of doing it the way he did it. He was good at communication, and expressing himself, so I don't understand why he did not do it. And their relationship was good enough for him to do it. So that part, I'm a little disappointed in Aiden. And let's see. Let me see. Carter. Do I have anything about Carter? Carter, I think he felt bad for putting that bug in Aiden's ear to begin with. And I think that he's trying to rectify his mistake because he see how miserable his friend is. And I know god darn well they not bringing Kevin back. Or did Carter just say that to pull at Aiden's leg? Because if they bring Kevin back, what? Well, at least she'll get her closure. Okay, y'all, so I ain't gonna hold you. I'm gonna see you in chapter 21.